Hello everyone, happy holidays and welcome to my build guide. This is a build guide for a blood mage that uses Sunder Totem, and I'm very nervous about it because it's my first time filming, and also sorry for the quality. I realize it might not be the best, but without excusing myself too much, let's just go into a map, see how it goes, see how the build feels. And if you like it or think it's something you might be interested in, please stick around for the rest of the video where I will cover all the details. For now, I will shut up and kill some monsters. And my cat is on my desk. Didn't really check the map before starting it. Oh, we have an essence here. I can showcase how we actually handle rare monsters. Okay, what we do is set the totem, then we click, and the rare dies. I will explain after finish with the maps how exactly the mechanics goes and how the build plays and what you expect from it. My cat just picked the wrongest time to ask for attention. He's on my keyboard, so hopefully I won't fuck up. Run. You see, I just broke his armor. This means the Sunder will get a guaranteed crit and basically one-shot him. This also works for bosses. Yeah, it works for bosses because for rares and bosses, it usually just takes one tick from a resonating shield for their armor to be fully broken, and at that point, they most of the times just get one shot. Okay, let's see if I can find another rare and then just move on with the build, because there's no point in clearing the whole map right now. Maybe my cat will spare me a break. No rare here. There's no boss in this map. I can showcase a boss, but to be honest, most bosses I'm at like +2 level difficulty right now, and they are just trivial with this build. As long as you can break their armor, usually it takes like 1 or 2 hits from that to kill them. Maybe at higher map tiers or difficulties that changes, but right now I don't think that bosses are too much of a challenge. Also, this is a map with chill ground, that's why I move so slowly. Usually it goes a lot faster, and I'm also nervous right now. That's why my game style is kind of different and slow. This build does a lot of damage, and it's also pretty safe. You can argue that it's like a glass canyon. I wouldn't argue against that, but I think in some situations it lasts as long as some builds that are promoted as being tanky. It does have quite a bit of health. It's 6.2k right now because of the globes. Let's see if I can find another rare and then just go back to the hideout and continue with the build. Oops. Almost missed there. So like I said, it's a pretty easy build, but you need to pay attention. You can't just sit around and stuff. You need to move. It's not the most mechanically demanding builds because I'm not the most mechanically gifted player. But it's not an AFK build. It's not an RF build that you can just stay AFK and let the enemies explode around you. It's not mechanically difficult because at the end of the day it is a totem build. Yeah, so I think you got the feeling of the build. I'll just go back to the hideout now and continue with the details. Okay, back to the hideout. Because I cut my run short, you can also check my other videos where I showcase different kinds of maps I run, bosses and everything else. I also did pretty easily the Trial Master. I tried him at level 81 for the first time and failed at like under 5% because like I said, I'm not very mechanically gifted. We did hit at level 84 and successfully cleared him. He really isn't that difficult. The build did like a quarter of the damage that it does now back then, so you shouldn't have any problems with. Yeah, so let's get into it. I will first explain the skills. The skills are as follows. We have life remnants, which is actually the Ascendancy skill. This basically makes you pop health bubbles when you kill a mob or when you crit a mob. I will go more into detail when I talk about the Ascendancy. We have Blasphemy with Enfeeble. This is self-explanatory. We have some damage mitigation. We have Bone Shatter that is linked with Culling Strike and Impact Shockwave and Behead. This is basically the headhunter you have at home. It sucks. I hardly ever use it. Used it mostly in campaign and then just left it here. We have Leaf Slam, which doesn't really matter with what you link it as long as you have Holy Descent. This gives Consecrated Ground, which gives 50% reduced effect of curses as well as 5% of your life regen per second. This is nice to have. Leaf Slam is obviously used for mobility reasons. Okay, the main skill, I will go directly to the main skill and then talk about the others, is Ancestral Totem. Yeah, this Ancestral Totem means that you can basically socket another Mage skill, and the totem will use it instead of you. This version uses Sunder. Yeah, the Sunder has a totem that shoots a long wave. The wave has an initial damage, which we can see here. Yeah, this is the initial damage, the wave. And there is also a shockwave. Each enemy that is hit also emits a circle around here, a shockwave, which also does damage. That damage actually overlaps, so if you have like 5 enemies close together, they each will have their own shockwave, and it will overlap with each other, making a big explosion. That's why mobs get one-shotted by Sunder Totem when they are in packs, even though it doesn't crit. Okay? So, the other aspect of Sunder is that it also crits. It has a great guaranteed crit on enemies that have broken armor. So we obviously want to break the armor of enemies as much and as soon as we can. I initially used Shockwave Totems for this as a support. Used the Shockwave Totem to break the armor of the enemies, and then placed an Ancestral Warrior Totem with Sunder. That really didn't go very well. I soon discovered Resonating Shield, which is a channeling skill that breaks the enemy armor. I added some supports like Demolisher, which breaks 40% more armor, Splinter, which gives 50% of physical damage dealt again as broken armor, Martial tempo so that we can attack faster, and magnified effect for the AoE. This basically breaks 10k armor per hit, and that's most of the times enough to fully break the armor of the enemies. Some armor mobs or armor bosses may require more than one tick, but as you see, it doesn't take that much for you to reach like 5 ticks, and almost any enemy I've met so far had their armor fully broken within 5 ticks at most. But like I said, most of the times one tick is enough. For others, support skills for Ancestor Warrior, we have Heavy Swing, which gives more melee physical damage, Brutality, Super Critical, which gives 100% increased critical damage bonus, but 20% less critical hits chance. Sunder itself doesn't have like almost any crit. It only crits when the enemy has armor broken. And we also have Inspiration. Inspiration is not a damage skill, obviously, it just reduces the health cost. And all the other skills are basically irrelevant in this build. I will talk about them separately if needed, but all you will use is Charge to get around, Sunder Totem, and Resonating Shield to break the armor of the enemies, as well as Leap Stamps to hop over stuff. For auras, we use Time of Need and, like I said, Blasphemy. Something that is very important actually is Cannibalism. This keeps your sustain through mapping. It's really good. If you can't use anything else, make sure you just use Cannibalism. You can link it to the life remnants if nothing else. Secondly, precision is very good. This without this you lose about 10% damage because your totem will always miss a lot. Yeah, and that's about it for the skills. Let's go into the talent tree for a bit. So obviously we are a Blood Mage Ascendancy. The first skill, we're obligated to take this Sanguimancy. This is a pretty bad skill. It has a hit minus for us. I think every Blood Mage has this. I mean, no Blood Mage would willingly take this if it wasn't if he wasn't obligated to take it. What this skill does, it's pop some health globes around the map when you kill enemies or when you crit them, and then you basically turn into Pac-Man trying to eat them all while you're killing enemies. Besides that, you also gain base life cost equal to mana cost. What this means is if our Ancestor Warrior Totems costs 250 mana, it will also cost 250 life. And that hurts us because when we decide to drop mana because mana sucks and pick up Blood Magic, we have to sustain through our life both costs. So we have to take the 250 life and the 250 mana, which turn into 500 life, and that is why I have the absurd cost of 500 life for each cast of Totem. And that is also why I use as my 6th link the Inspiration for 40% less cost. You can get away with not using this and using 6th link as a damage boost, but you will have a really hard time, and most of the times you'll just end up killing yourself. Yeah, so I highly recommend using Inspiration. It makes the build a lot more comfortable. The second node that we take is Gore Spike. This is basically the whole reason why I chose to use this build as a Blood Mage. I initially started it as a warrior. Yeah, I had a Warbringer warrior and stacked all this life and realized I might have to go Blood Mage. I'm sorry, I think that was my cat again. So what this node does, it gives you 1% critical damage bonus for 40 life. Essentially, if you have like 4,000 life, this basically gives you a free 100% critical damage bonus, which is added to the other critical damage bonus that Sunder already has. So Sunder has 100%. Let me just show you real quick. So right here we will have 300%. This means that we have the 100% base, which happens to be double damage. We also have 100% that the Sunder gem itself has, which means 200, yeah, and 300, the third 100 is actually from the super critical. What this means is when Sunder hits, if it has 1000 damage, it will actually deal 4000 damage when it hits, right? But Gore Spike's damage isn't added here. I saw a lot of people complaining about the fact that Gore Spike is bugged. It's really not bugged, it just works in a different way. The way it works is if you say have 1000 damage, like I previously said, if you hit an enemy and crit, it will deal initially 4000 damage, yeah? So the base 1000 plus 300%, so it will deal 4000 damage, and as a separate tick it will deal another 1000 damage if you have 4000 health, right? So that's why it doesn't show up here. It's because the damage is dealt in different ticks in different instances. Now this might mean that it sucks a bit for ailments. I'm not really sure how that works. I will test it and keep you updated if I have any other details. So that is with Gore Spike. It's definitely not bugged, it works. I can post another video about it, maybe, if you don't believe me. So the third node is a survivability node. It's basically 25% of life loss from hits prevented, then lost over 4 seconds. What this basically is 25% less damage from hit if you can sustain it, and we can sustain it. I will show you how. The fourth Ascendancy, we should go for this node. It really isn't as fun as it might seem. It's basically just 10% extra damage. The elemental damage contributed to bleeding magnitude is not really needed, not really used in this build. Might look into using it further, but it doesn't really help that much at the current build state. For the talent tree itself, we basically take stat nodes, some regen along the way, because why not? Some more damage and stats. What we want to do is get a blood magic as soon as we can, as well as go for Giant's Blood so that we can use two-handed axe. We get all the totem nodes because it allows us to have an additional totem. I also got this node, which keeps 4 attack speed per summon totem, so that's 12 extra attack speed for the totems. What else is mentionable here? Also, we get this node because it gives a lot of extra broken armor, and again, broken armor, extra physical damage. That's about it. You will notice that we also have the block nodes. These help us get a 75% block, which will help a lot for survivability, and because our shield gives health on block, as well as giving us a lot of damage boost. 1% damage per 1% chance to block means this node gives us 75% increased damage, as well as this one 75%. In total, these nodes give us 150 increased damage, 150%. Okay, some other things that are worth mentioning is iron reflexes, conversion of evasion rating to armor. We don't really want to evade attacks, we want to block them so that we will regen more health. We will see that at our shield. And I also took some basic bleeding nodes. This bleeding node that gives a chance to bleed and bleeding magnitude, and this one that actually makes our attacks, our totem attacks, being able to aggravate bleeding on targets. Aggravating bleeding basically means that the bleed itself will deal double the damage it usually deals. Yeah, we don't go too much in depth with the bleeding, but an extra bleeding on the Sunder crit is more than welcomed. I have around 69 chance to bleed on crit with this, and it's an appreciated added damage. I may go deeper into bleeding damage further, but right now this is what we got. For defenses, we are using Mage to Last. This converts 15% of the physical damage prevented as life recoup. Block damage is considered physical damage prevented, so anytime you block, 50% of that will be recouped as life. What else? Yeah, and we also took Bulwark. This basically means that our dodge roll cannot avoid damage, but it's fine for the same reasons that we don't want to evade. We prefer to block hits, not dodge them, so that we can recoup our life. Okay, this is about the skill tree. If I omitted something or you don't know the logic of any skill, just let me know. I'll clarify gladly. So let's get into the stats and the items. So here are the stats of this character. You can see I have 340 strength, 105 dex, 109 int, 75% block. We have 32% armor, but then again, armor kind of sucks. You can check out Criperion's video if you want to expand on that subject. And as for resistances, the piece de resistance, what makes this build truly unique is the fact that it has absolutely no elemental resistances. Yes, that is right. This may sound like a meme build, and it probably is a meme build in some ways, but it 100% works, as you have seen in the previous map, as well as the other videos that I posted and that I will post. It constantly performs well in any content. Now, the logic behind this build was when going through the campaign, I found it really hard to cap all my resistances, so I figured if I can't get 75 all res, which basically means 75 less elemental damage taken, so if I can't get 75 less elemental damage, let me try to get 75 more life, 75% more life. You can't get 75% more life, but you can get pretty damn close to it. Yeah, how you can do that is by getting this really underrated piece of equipment. It's Veil of the Night. Basically, it eliminates your elemental resistances, but instead gives you a big chunk of life. Yeah, the base value is 50%, but you can also corrupt it to up to like 61% maximum life. Okay, so basically what this means is that we have no elemental mitigation. Our main source of mitigating damage is through block and through a big health pool. And for most situations that seems to be enough, because yeah, my initial goal was to get through the campaign and then some point at early maps transition into resistance gear, and I actually tried that. I tried to get some resistance gear with life, but every time I tried that, the build started to suck a lot because the health pool dropped. I had really big issues with summoning the totem. It would take like half of my life per summon, and it would just cause a lot of problems. So I eventually started to embrace the idea that I will continue as a zero resistance character until I hit a wall, and it seems that that wall was not yet hit. I will keep trying to push this build and see what kind of content I can do with it. And my goal for this early access game is actually to finish all the content with a zero resistance build, zero resistance blood mage. We'll see if I can do that. I'm pretty confident that if I can't do that, I can at least do most of it. Okay, so let's get into the equipment. For the helm, we have Veil of the Night, the jewel behind this weird build. Yeah. For armor, I went with Rat's Cage, another really underrated and very bad armor for most builds. But for this build it works. Why does it work? Because it has the highest base life in the game right now. It has 300 life, and you can corrupt it for 360, I believe. And it also has the usual downside of taking fire damage from hits as physical damage. In this type of situation, it's actually a upside, because while not having a lot of armor, we still have a lot more armor than we have fire res. So this kind of eliminates some of the threat from physical hits. So this is a pretty good armor. It's arguably best in slots. There might be different versions, but we will talk about that later. So most of the other items are basically big life, stats, rarity if you can get it, because it's really OP, and that's about it. That's what makes this build really cheap. The most expensive probably pieces in this build is my weapon, which is not really required. It's a +7, but you can get the +6 for basically a few exalts. And the shield, which I just got yesterday, it's also not required, but it is an amazing shield for this build, and I highly recommend you save your currency and try to make this one of the first big purchases that you make. I bought one yesterday for 120 exalts. Yeah, it should be too hard to save up for this. Until then, I was using a regular rare shield. In the other videos that I have, I was using it clearing tier 15, so again, it's not needed, but it helps a lot. So I highly recommend you go for this as soon as you can. It will help you a lot to sustain all the damage you take in maps. This what's important about this is the recover 4% of your life when you block. You basically block every 3 out of 4 hits. That means in 4 hits you in average recovered like 12% of your life. I won't go into details, but it's really good. So the mace, the mole, yeah, it's a +7. I got this for like 40 exalts or something. I corrupted it for the 3rd socket, got lucky, and I will probably add a spirit soul core sometime when I can afford it, but right now it's really expensive and not really needed. Like I said, if you don't have this, you can just go for a +6. Don't bother for any other stats, because they don't work for totems. The only thing that does work for totems is the plus level of all melee skills, which you should try to keep as high as you can, preferably be a +6 or +7. What could be interesting is getting strength on it, because this strength on it also gets considered for the strength requirement of the mace. What you can do is basically spec into the required strength, like in this case would be like 312, because it's 3 times the requirement. So you can spec in the strength, then spec out of the 13 strength that this one has, so that it gets added to the total. Okay, so we covered the shield, we covered more. For rings and amulets, same thing. Go for as high life as you can, where you can. Try to get plus level of all melee skills, like here on the amulet +3 and the gloves +2. Health plus maximum life is the most important stats you can get on all your gear pieces. Same thing is for rings. You don't have to get Ventor gambles. You can just get breach rings, which are actually better, and I will go for them soon. You can get breach rings with like 120 life that you can quality up to 50% and get like 60 life per breach ring. Also get a lot of rarity, and those are usually under 5 exalts. They are really cheap because you don't need any resistances. This is what makes this build extraordinarily cheap and a very good option for a starter. If nothing changes to this build, I think it will be one of the best league starters you can do, because all you need is like a 1 exalt unique or 2 exalt uniques, and you can get this build going up to tier 14, 15, and then 16 maps without any kind of problem. So the belt itself was, I think, 2 or 3 exalts. Gloves, same thing. I think these were 10 exalt because I really needed 25 strength and 22 dexterity at the moment so that I can equip my Forge Maul. But basically you just have to filter for high life, the stats that you need, dex and strength, and maybe rarity. I recommend you try rarity because it's really overpowered, but that's everything you need, and that's why you can get away with a really cheap build. Okay, so about expectations. Like I said, this build can so far do almost any mad mod. I even did 90% left health regeneration. It's a bit more difficult than other map mods, but it certainly can be done. What does hurt is if you get rows of extra damage as cold or as lightning, as well as elemental penetration. If you have all 3 of those suffixes on the same item, it's a very high chance that you will get killed. However, if you only have 1 of them, like this one, where the monsters deal extra 38% damage of extra lightning, it's not it's doable. You can still do it. Monsters will hurt a bit, but it's doable. You won't die. This build obviously does die eventually, like, I don't know, once every 4 or 5 maps, but a lot of those deaths are mechanically are deaths that could have been avoided because of mechanics where I just don't pay attention. But at the end of the day, it's PoE2, the game is pretty hard, and almost any build dies at some point. So yeah, I will try and do pinnacle bosses, keep you updated how that went. I have pretty high damage, so I'm pretty confident that if not clearing everything in the game, I will manage to clear almost, or at least most of it, with 0 resistances. I do not recommend that you try and get rid of your resistances. It's generally a very stupid idea, but for some reason with this build it kind of works. Yeah, that's about it for this. In terms of versions, you can maybe try a different version where you use, like I said, shockwave totems as support instead of resonating shield. I don't recommend it. I think this is the best version with resonating shield. There's also a version of this build that can go with the Warbringer. I don't think it has that much to bring except war. The Warbringer will probably be a bit more tankier because you can get like 89% block with something like Fallen, and that's about it. You lose all the extra critical damage that the Blood Mage can do. I don't think it's a particularly good idea, but it's something you can try. Another interesting version of this build could be by going fire. You can convert 75% of your damage to fire damage. It's something I might look into at some point. What this means is, besides the high crits and high bleeds, we could also get potentially high ignites. Not really sure, but it's something I will look into the future. And what else could I mention? I think that's about it in most cases. One more addition into high budget versions. If you really want to invest, if you have a lot of currency and want to invest in this build, I would recommend that you get obviously Ingenuity paired with Breach Rings. It can give massive amounts of health, rarity, damage, whatever you want. That's why Ingenuity is really sought after right now. Also because it's the only way that you can basically get rarity on belt. Otherwise it can't roll rarity on belt. So besides Ingenuity, you can also try to get like the jewels that grant +3 to certain skills. I forgot exactly how they are called, but you can get one of those with Ancestral Warrior Totem or with Sunder, and they will greatly boost your damage. If you get one of those jewels for Ancestral Warrior Totem, +3 would mean you get like 40% more damage, and for Sunder Totem it would be like 20% more damage, but at the same time it would drastically reduce the mana cost, that the life cost that you are using with totems. And that's about it. This build might be a bit difficult to level, so what I recommend doing is, if you want to level it like this, obviously the first version would be just find a popular leveling build and then respect when you hit 52 and can use Ancestral Warrior Totem. At that point it's just smooth sailing. You can do anything you want. But if you want to start leveling as a totem, what I recommend you do is get the unique gloves that give Giant's Blood. I think I have them. Let me just check. I think they was here. Yeah, these are the gloves. So 3 fingers, riveted mitts. They give Giant's Blood and some shitty stats like physical damage, low physical damage. These were corrupted to break, increase 10% armor. That's not needed. These are solely used so you can use two-handed maces, so that you can get a big plus to all melee skills, so you can level safely until you reach Giant's Blood. Yeah. Besides that, what I actually recommend till you hit like level 20 or 30 is get one of these helms. You can pair it with a unique belt that I don't have it right now, that can also be used at low levels. Yeah, this is the one, Maginord's Girdle, Rawhide Belt. This gives really high strength, up to 50 strength at level 1. You can pair this with this helm, Remake, which also gives up to 50 strength, so you can basically have 100 strength at level 1. To that you can add other items that give strength, and what you do with those is basically use this gem with a charge. This gem actually gives you 80% to 100% of your strength as physical damage. You can also add Ingenuity and maybe increased AoE. Pair that with Herald of Ash, and what this means is basically you will charge from pack to pack, one-shotting them all the way through the first 3 acts. At some point this does start to fall off, and maybe at that point you can go into a more orthodox approach of leap slamming to bone shatter or whatever you want. This has been it for the most part about the build. I'm sure I left out a lot of critical or interesting details. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this build, if I wasn't too chaotic, because I realize I probably was. And if you have any type of questions, leave a comment. I will get back and answer it. And make sure you like and subscribe for more details. I will update you with the progress of the build. I will keep uploading videos with any bosses I keep doing. And yeah, have a nice new year and a nice time in PoE2. Bye.